Where do you see the chances for the Chiefs?
Look, I think you have to look at where the Chiefs have been successful is one, their carry clean. Like if they can get that dominance in their carry clean, then you know players like McKenzie and co are going to thrive. Their back three is electric. And I think they have to have real confidence in their own kicking game. You know, because so often you'll go down to Christchurch and you know you have to kick. You know, and sometimes you just kick without actually looking. Like looking up at the backfield, and I think if they get the balance right in the sense of not just kicking, like really looking where that backfield is and being real calculated in terms of their decision making, like it might be on for running. So what they did really well in that second half is when Sean Stevenson did the 50-22, it meant the back three had to drop back, which slowed the defensive effort. And you remember Carter's try was just through the hands, and they attacked that. So I think that's a real strength of the Chiefs because their instinct is to attack. Like even with their kicks, their instinct is attacking kicks before territory kicks. Unless the picture is really obvious for that 50-22, everything is based around attack. And I think that serves them really well if they do it on the basis of kicking on their terms off the back of carry clean. So I think those two work in favour. And then obviously, defence speaks for itself, is having the ability to not give penalties away, to allow the Crusaders to go to what they love in their set pieces in the 22, and making your tackles, your one-on-one tackles, which we know, I think both these sides are red hot in terms of their defence. So I think those probably with ball in hand and kick run selection will be crucial if the Chiefs are to do it, because I look at that 40 minutes. That second 40 minutes, and that's the blueprint on how to win in Christchurch.
I like the variety that the Chiefs did on the weekend as well. Now they had 40 plus kicks, kicked almost 1,400 metres, but I think the way that they did kick long is a great preview. I think what they can do against the Crusaders. Now whether they want to go to the contestable game of Fatima or McKenzie or Shooter, whoever it may be, but I really did like their ability to kick long, especially sometimes you want to play without the ball. And then if you continue to keep kicking long and, I guess baiting teams to take that run, then you've got guys like Jacobson, Finau and even Satiti that are very good around that breaking area, which could then lead to 3 points, which we saw on the weekend. Damien McKenzie has 5-6 penalties and been able to build that scoreboard pressure just through the defensive efforts of some players. So look, I really did enjoy the way that the Chiefs did kick and the variety they can choose. Like we've seen throughout the year as well, they can do contestables off Fatima, McKenzie as well. So look, I think they've got a great way of adjusting on the run and what they feel in terms of being able to build pressure through their contestable game and also kicking along with Damien and Shooter of how far they can kick the ball.
The intensity of their chase line, like Carter, Nawara, Quintapaya and Daniel Rona, like holy hecker, like they are up there and they're like, okay, well you're going to have to kick out so we get a net gain, or you can chance your arm. And then we've got the likes of Finau, Satiti and Jacobson to pile in the second wave, like everything's all out attack, but when their long kicks are still attacking, just the way their mindset is around their chase, they just corral you into a corner and say, okay, you have a crack and get out of it, and they get a lot of success off that. But the one thing, because they've got that confidence in defence, actually giving away a net gain isn't drastic to the Crusaders. They'll kick it out and they'll have a line out 30 out and they'll go into their system and they'll back it. Whereas for some teams, they don't have that, and that's when you see them chance their arm and that's when the error comes. Whereas I just don't think they'll give you that opportunity. They'll go, okay, we'll back our D, we'll kick it out. So it's just the Chiefs being real patient and methodical around their kick and run selection so that you're making them think and hesitate a little bit to try and force that error. It was the discipline of the Crusaders' defence that didn't allow the Blues to get an equaling score at 82nd minute to send it into golden point. So I think both sides were very, very good in terms of discipline on the weekend, and they will need that because Bryn says 1 or 2 moments. I think it'll be 1 or 2 penalties that will potentially decide this.
So you're after a single-figure penalty count. That's the aim, right, Brenner? What happens on the field when it starts to go up? I'm thinking like basketball, when the foul count gets high and you sub the player out. Like, when your penalty count gets high, what does that conversation look like on the field in the Crusaders?
Firstly, solution focus. You've been able to try and find out what the common trend is. Whether it's if it's 5 breakdown penalties, it's been able to identify that, whether that's through the players on the field or it might be a message from upstairs that, hey, these are the reasons why we need to be a little bit more squeaky clean in and around that. We used to have a word that was said out on the field that would trigger you to be able to, I guess, have an idea that, we are in a penalty count, so let's be squeaky clean. So that was another way to try and find a solution to trigger that. But also, if you do get a break, it's been able to come collectively as a group and been able to, I guess, firstly, figure out what the problem is, talk about it, and then I guess hopefully everybody's heard that message, and then you've got to go out and then try and execute it. Now, sometimes you actually don't get there right. You say the right messages, you still give away penalties, but I guess all you can do is give the information to the players that this is what's happening, these are the trends, let's try and fix it on the run, or else you get to halftime and then I guess you can really debrief it and have a little bit more time to try and figure out how you can be better around that space.
During the week, you go through some what-if scenarios and having a real clear picture of where the ref has penalised high. You've got a whole data set that you can get some, I suppose some lead, or you can get ahead of the curve as such as understanding where their pressure points are. And one, from a leadership point of view, you can, if you see the opposition doing it, you can remind the ref, hey, look, they're coming from the side and those defensive rucks. Can you look at it, knowing that that's an area he doesn't like, to see in his game, and then, during the week, okay, we've given away a lot of penalties that break down. Now they're going to the corner, and now we're getting, illegal sacking advantages. Okay, what are we going to do here? And have the discussion there when you've got time, and come up with plan B or C. Okay, the sack's not working, or we're getting no payout of a normal defensive drive. What other options do we have? We don't have any, we do have any, and have it there so that when it presents itself, you're not trying to teach or learn on the go. You're just saying, hey, we've been through this, we know what our plan is, let's go to that.
When you look at the yellow cards on the weekend, if you think about discipline in that way, where it's constantly not creeping into the wrong place, often isolated incidents. If you look at Hoskins Tutu or Fusitu'a, it's an isolated incident outside of the general gameplay, and keeping that discipline in that moment where you're not upright and you're not putting yourself in a position to get an accidental head clash. Those kind of things. Is there a way of making sure everyone is dialed in at all times? Because that can be the turning point of the game, away from those other elements and trigger calls and things.
Your tackle technique, all the messaging, everything that's said out throughout the year, you train those on an everyday basis, and you know exactly if you do get yourself into that position, you're going to be getting a yellow card. So I think the work then in the preview from your defensive coach throughout the year gives you then the best opportunity to be able to then go out on the field at the back end of the year. That you've done so much repetition, you've done so many training in and around that. Most of the time you are going to make good decisions, but sometimes, unfortunately, you look at Hoskins, example, he had his intent to be able to try and really make a positive tackle with the force that he was going, but unfortunately, a decision-making error, which then, I guess, cost your team a yellow card. So I think you as the individual, you've got to know that you just have to get your tackle technique right. There's no real excuse. You have enough preparation around it, and you know what is going to happen if you don't get it right. So
I think learning as well, like the Chiefs can look and go, okay, if Fihaki's feeling some pressure, he's going to bounce off his right foot. Yeah. Okay, Luke, if you're going to or if we're going to have a flyer this week, just know there's two guys in behind you that can clean up the tackle.
Yeah.
Because it was just Hoskins going for a charge down, and it's pretty hard to slow your foot speed and then get into that tackle position. But, obviously didn't feel like there was people in and around him, and went to adjust, but because it happened so quick. Same thing for Enel's one. He's a flyer off the kickoff. Just trust that if he beats you, you've got two mates either side that can clean it up. Because that's where it seems to happen, is when a player's beaten, it's a thrown arm out, or it's you haven't dipped because they've changed direction and it's head on head. So I think it's just preparing the mindset that one missed tackle is a lot better than 10 minutes in the bin and a penalty. Yep. A penalty, like exit relieving penalty.
Yeah.
I know it's easy to say here in hindsight and everything. I'm just saying that if they have the communication and know that, okay, when we see a flyer, they're going for a charge down, they're not going to tackle the guy. So we actually your job is to get him behind and protect him.
I suppose the thing about hindsight is we've seen this been happening 3 years, week in, week out for 3 years. So hindsight is that we know this is going to
And
happen.
it normally
and you know
comes
the
from
result.
charge downs.
Yeah.
Someone goes in the air.
We saw
and
Dan
they
Cole
can't
in the
control.
English Premiership
Yep,
final.
Yep.
Same thing, right?
Loses control when you
Yeah.
go in the air, or just like that, trying to dip, and it happens off kickoffs.
Yeah.
So most of the time, like Fusitua's one is just he didn't get low enough as that player was dropping, but I think the majority of it is when you're going to do something,
Yeah.
and then the attacker changes and catches you off guard, and you try to recover, which is natural, but it normally leads to 10 in the bin.
But in the case of Dan Cole, I feel like a 30-something-year-old veteran prop who's managed to get up to charge that down should probably be rewarded. Give him possession for getting up into that area of the field, because how did he get there?
Yeah.
It's insane.
Probably was put on side. He might have got a bit of a head start, but
Yeah.
no. Look, I agree, but if you it's like anything. Like now as a player, if you're going to put yourself in that position, you know what's coming. So it's actually going a step further. Going, okay, why are we as individuals doing that? Okay, well, what do we put around it so we can still put kick pressure on, so we can still put a flyer off the kickoff?
Yeah.
And that's where I think that growth can give them confidence that, okay, one missed tackle.
Yeah.
You force Shea Fihiaki to come off his right foot from good kick pressure. Job done.
Yeah.
Now it's your mate's turn to clean him up.
To take it, yeah.
And then you can get a counter ruck from there because no one's behind him, it's quite... That head clash led to a penalty, exit, yellow card, where if he had stepped him and then got tackled in a bit of ruck pressure, the Crusaders have to come back around and in. It's messy ball and you're going to get a net gain from it.
Hindsight's a great thing, and it's hard to do that under pressure, under fatigue, and being able to do it at that speed. But we know as players that if you get it wrong, you're going to get a yellow card, which could cost you a final or something like that.
Hoskins' example, we were right there in line with it, like right there.
Yeah.
And I just thought Shea Fihiaki knocked it on.
Right.
Like it happened so quick.
Yeah.
And obviously we were there going, whoa, big moment, thinking a scrum. But it was only because of the way he reacted. We're like, oh man, he must have been caught. His head must have been caught. Until we saw the replay, we couldn't, that's how quick it happened. Because it didn't look like Hoskins was anywhere near him.
Yeah.
Because he was going for that charge down and it was...
Boom.
Yeah, boom, so quick.
Yeah.